coming up on the Lead Ministry Podcast.
One of the worst mistakes that you can make is do all of that probing and asking and hearing people's feedback and coming up with a plan and then not doing anything with it and not following through.
Now your host, Josh Denhart.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Lead Ministry Podcast. We are ending today a 3-part little series. We've been talking about, really in a sense, how to start your year off well, right? We're square in the middle of January 2026. You may have some fire inside to update a few things and to kind of right the ship and to clean something up. Well, there's a process by which we think you can do that. Our good friend Vance Martin has introduced what we call the progress spiral. And the progress spiral is actually quite important and quite helpful for us. The first thing, good old Mr. Vance, good to see you, buddy.
Hey. Good to see you, man.
We're back at it. So this progress spiral, I like this. The thing that I like the most is the area that I am the least good at. Now, I'm really good at making steps and I'm really good at executing something. Okay?
Of course.
But our first episode was talking about you need to evaluate, identify, find out what isn't working. And often, we as leaders, we get all hung up because we're staring at this forest, but we can't actually see the trees. We see this huge, big picture, but we need to constantly zoom in, zoom back out, zoom back in over and over and over. And part of that zooming in is asking people, hey, what aren't we seeing? What blind spots do we have? Now, here's a great question. And I ask this frequently. How am I driving you crazy? Now, I know that I am. I know I'm driving you crazy.
Well, since you asked, Josh, let me tell you, I'm glad that you asked.
Well, the funny thing is that, and I could tee this up by saying, hey, we work with people, we work with programs, and we work with processes. How are we as a ministry driving you crazy? Now, before you answer, I want to say, we know that we are driving you crazy. That's a given.
Yes.
This is not, are we driving you crazy? It's, where are we driving you crazy? And what I also want, by the way, I would often say, before I said any of what I have just said, I would often say, I want your absolute first thought. I don't want you to filter. I want zero filter. When I ask you this next question, I want what immediately comes to mind. And they go, okay, here's my question. Not if, but how are we as a ministry driving you crazy? And they went like this. And I said, okay, that one right there. That one, the one that just caused you to pull your head back and look away from me and you feel a little bit awkward. Can you tell me that one? And they're like,
yep.
They're like, yeah. So why in the world do you guys do this? And I'm like, oh, defensive slightly. And then I let my defenses down and I go, well, you're asking a good question. And it's kind of for these reasons, but it doesn't seem like it's landing. Oh, but it's not landing at all. Okay, so now I probe deeper. That's the first step of this progress cycle. And I'm probing and I'm finding out, how really bad is it? Because I've been unaware. And so once I find out that it's something, then I go into more of a strategic zone where I pull back a little bit, I think critically, and I begin to strategize. And we do need to make a change because our people are experiencing this problem. That's not acceptable. We're going to actually change something. We go through the steps of prepping for that change. But now, Vance, is step 3. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah. So the third action or movement to the progress spiral is complete. Now you've probed, you've strategized. Now you got to put some feet on it. You actually have to do it. You have to follow through with this to get this done. One of the worst mistakes that you can make is do all of that probing and asking and hearing people's feedback and coming up with a plan and then not doing anything with it and not following through. Because here's what happens. One, you lose trust with people.
You do.
They go, he didn't really care. He's not really listening to me. He asked me how we're driving him crazy, but doesn't do anything about it. So I don't really matter. Because if I really mattered and what drives me crazy and what's slowing me down and what's impeding me from accomplishing what God's called me to isn't important enough for them to actually fix it, then I'm not important. That's really what you're communicating.
I would agree.
To these people.
And what's super sad is when they don't see us execute on that. The next time we come around and say, "Hey, how am I driving you crazy?" They're like, why am I wasting my breath? Yeah.
You're absolutely, you're just making, you're ensuring that you're never going to get honesty from people in the future. And this is let your yes be yes and your no be no. Now, there obviously can be reasons, and some problems are more complex to fix than others and can take time. But when what is trust? It's actions, over time equal trust. You proving yourself to be trustworthy. You've let your yes be yes and your no be no. And you're making good on the promises that you've made over time. That builds trust. You have a reputation right now, one way or the other.
And a reputation is earned by time plus consistency of any behavior. You may have a good reputation that you're a person who probes, and then you strategize, and then you crush it and change it, and you come back to these people and go, "Hey, remember that thing that was driving you crazy? We did our best. Can you help us evaluate and probe whether this is meeting the problem?" If you do that consistently, people are going to be like, "Hey, he's a man of his word. He came to me and had a problem. Yeah. He has a strong reputation." Or you could have a reputation of being a blowhard and you don't do anything. All you do is talk.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Absolutely. And this really, again, we ended our episode last time on touching on this, and it's that knowing where you're weak in one of these three areas, because chances are you're not great at all of them. And so maybe you're good at the probing, maybe you're good at the strategy, maybe you're good at the completing, but chances are you're not good at all three. And so is this the area that you need most help with, or whatever that area is? And bring in some support. And that's part of what this framework exists, is to supplement and go, okay, maybe you're not great at completing or probing. And so this is to give you a plan to go, okay, this might not be natural to you. Just follow these three steps.
Yes.
So as we're looking at completing, there now of this action of complete, there are three steps. First step.
Wait a minute. Do they start with the letter C?
Okay. Of course they do.
Okay.
Of course they do,
Josh. Good job. So, the three steps. Step number one, collaborate.
Yeah. Who can own parts of the plan, right? We've already got the plan. We've already strategized. And now, so when we have a plan and we have steps, now I can assign things to people that I know are good at things.
Yeah.
Whether it's people on my team or volunteers, and I can share the load. So I'm not the only one that has to be a part of this. And in fact, a great way to get ownership and buy-in is now coming back to that person.
Yes.
That told you and said, "Hey, here's the plan. Would you help us implement this? I thought you'd be great at this in helping us implement this part of this plan and this change."
This is such an important piece, because one of the factors that I think is the most important is involvement, getting people's involvement or their engagement. And so the funny thing is that people often stay where they have say. And so all of a sudden, you made your voice heard. I'm now circling back and saying, "Hey, what you said was so critical. And the offhanded thing that you said that we should maybe help to fix this, we've taken some time, and we would love to help have your help executing this. Now, Vance, this is another great Vanceism. You say right here, true change happens in hearts, not just in systems. Involve your people. This is so critical. And this hits me quite well, right? Because what is a system? It is a organizational something that serves people.
Yeah. I call it, and I stole this from one of my friends, but it's the poetry and plumbing.
Interesting.
So the plumbing is how all this thing fits together. It's the system. It's the cerebral part of this, if you will.
Fair.
It's the scaffolding. It's how we execute this thing.
It's the diagram.
You can have
maybe the diagram.
Yeah, it's all of those things that make this thing work. And if you have all that dialed in, yet not have the heart, the poetry, the vision, the understanding, not just of, I know this, but it's a conviction that this is what we're supposed to do. And so there's this ownership that, yes, this is what God's called us to. You have to have both.
Interesting.
And so involving your people and collaborating, if you just do the heart side of this thing and it's just all poetry, it's going to fail flat on its face.
Because it doesn't have any structure.
That's right. So it's both cerebral and visceral. It's the heart and the mind working together and helping people. When you bring people together, it helps them, when you're collaborating, it helps them to solidify both of these areas. They get the understanding of the process, of the system, but also the reasoning why, the vision, the mission, the value. And this is where often change falls apart.
Ouch.
Is when we neglect one of these two areas.
I've never heard it.
We didn't bring our people along.
I've never heard it so succinctly when you say it's the plumbing and the poetry. That's a really good way to put that. That's absolutely brand new to me. I've never heard that before. And so the plumbing is the architectural schematics. Okay. That's right. How all this is going to happen. But then all of a sudden you go out to the contractors and you go, guys, do you feel it? And they're like, I feel it. I get it. This is going to really help people. Okay, now that you're now bought in, now you're going to put your full steam behind this black and white plan that we have. So you got to have the plumbing, but you got to have the poetry. I really like this plumbing and poetry piece. Is that original with you, brother? Got to be.
No, one of my friends. I gave him credit. I said, when I about said poetry and plumbing, this is from him. I stole it from him.
Well, it's really cool.
It's not mine.
I really like it.
Yeah, I agree. It's not just that. Here's what happens also is if you fail to do one of these things, not only will the change not stick, but often what happens is you revert back. And so if you've built the system, but I don't really truly understand the why behind this, people turn back to Egypt.
Yes. They're
going to say, it was better when we were in Egypt. I understood that. At least I knew I was going to get fed and I knew what to expect. This wilderness business, this is no good.
Yeah.
Because often this is a journey. We're heading to the promised land, and I can tell you it's a land flowing with milk and honey, and it's going to be amazing. But I don't really truly understand that. I'm not fully bought in. I just want to go back to Egypt. Well, so you got it's a conviction that we can't go back.
And this is interesting, and that's how we do. So this last piece, the first piece of us landing the plane and completing something. Okay, we listened to some people, we got a plan together, but now we're going to try to execute this and land this plane and complete it. There's a collaborative piece. And I gotta say, the collaborative piece isn't just pulling it off. The collaborative piece is winning hearts, Vance.
That's right. That's the whole point. Yes, that's right. Because that's the part that we often overlook is giving out the duties. But oh wait, do you understand why we're doing this? Are you bought in? Do you have a conviction? Have you moved from just a understanding, I think this is the right thing, or is it a conviction? Convinced is I can explain it to you.
Yes.
And I can tell you that this is the right thing.
Yes.
A conviction says I can't do anything else. We have to do this.
Yes. It is a conviction is compelling.
Conviction.
A conviction is compelling, and you like we have to do this. That's conviction. This is really good. Well, so another piece. This is now a further down the road. I did pretty good at this, but this is something I've watched not happen well. If you want to complete something, you've heard the problem, you've come up with your steps that you need to get there, and you're now seeking to complete or execute this. Yes, you're collaborating, but now you need to communicate. You need to let the masses know where you're headed, how you're going to head there, and why in the world you're going to head there.
Yeah. So again, think about who all the people that are involved, who's affected by it. That's where you have to communicate and over communicate. We often, when we're in this, again, comes back to that why. We will communicate what we're changing and how we're changing it, but not why. Simple things as, okay, we're going to reroute the traffic in our nursery.
Sure.
And we need people to go this direction. Well, I can communicate that and just say, we need to go, everybody just needs to move this direction. And now I've communicated the how, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it. If I don't communicate the why, which would be, hey, we've got two services that are really tight, and to make room for guests and for us to serve them best, we need everybody to exit out so that we have a flow and we can have a proper safety. And so you get the point. Yes. We're not communicating the why. And so we what's the heart behind this? What is the reasoning behind this? Because, even in those simple things, it's just you could see this as a programmatic or a system function, but what's the why behind it? That's what helps things. Simple as just traffic flow. Stick.
I completely agree because all of a sudden, if it is arbitrary, do you want to know who the first person to not comply? Josh Denhart. I don't do arbitrary. Like all of a sudden I'm like, nah, not real. I don't feel this. But all of a sudden, if you explain to me how this is going to help everything and help people, now I get it. And now you don't just have my compliance. You actually have, as we talked about a second ago, my conviction. And now I'm actually going to sell it. That's what we want, really, we want not just one seller. We want a lot of sellers. I'm going to push pause just for a second, Vance, and let you know that I made a humongous change at our church one time. And we had done the probing, and I'd figured that out. We had a big step thing. But one of the ways that we succeeded at communication is that I contacted 50 families before it went public. Now you got to understand, as I was on family 22, family 23, it was kind of going public already, kind of secretly. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't keep.
Oh yeah.
Okay. But we hadn't made the full announcement, but I was communicating to these people. Now here's an important piece. As I was communicating to these people, when they would ask me a question and I would answer it effectively, and I saw that it worked, I would kind of notate that was a good talking point. And so my, in a sense, communication was beginning to evolve over time. I was getting better at personally communicating this massive change that we were undergoing. That's great.
Yeah.
But watch carefully. Maybe person 22, family number 26, all of a sudden they asked me a question that caused me to go, whoa, nobody had thought of this thus far. Nobody. Here's what I did. I went back to persons 1 through 24, and I would give them a synopsis of where we were. I've talked to this many people. Here is one really important thing that I didn't communicate to you that has now been uncovered. Here's the answer to that.
Yeah.
So I went back to people. Here's the important part. I had literally just typed this up and I had sent it out to everybody prior. And this woman named Susan, she gets a hold of me and she said, she literally emailed me and said, you won't believe this, but somebody just got a hold of me who has found out about this change. They are not on your side at all. And they called me, not you. And I literally pulled up your email and the latest and greatest communication component that you just sent me, I was able to articulate that to them, and those people
what a gift.
Have now been won over. That's a
Love
gift.
It. John Maxwell said the gift of leadership is communication.
Wow.
So you're giving people, you're giving information is power.
Yes.
Right? Information is authority and information is influence. Communication is understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a gift to people. People don't want to feel confused. I think people typically want to move with you.
Yes.
And where the frustration is when they are confused and they feel left out and they don't understand. And that's where most of the frustration comes.
So how bad would it have been had I not gone back to people 1 through 24?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, person 76, who is not on my list, is reaching out to Susan, and then Susan feels flat-footed and can't answer their question and is like, actually, good point. Maybe this is a bad idea. But in my over-communication, I was able to be extremely clear. And then she was, as it turns out, she became one of my advocates.
Yeah, love that. One thing before we move too far on, I think is really key in this step.
Yes.
Is typically, especially when we're talking about change when it comes to our volunteers, is communicating those expectations clearly of what we are expecting in this new change. What is required of you? What are we expecting? When are we expecting you to show up, and how we're supposed to expecting you to show up, and what we're expecting you to do? Your execution will only be as clear as your communication.
Wow.
The better that you communicate, the more expectation you can have. And I would say, so there's like a chain of 3 here. Communication is the lid for execution and expectations. Your expectations are a lid for accountability.
Ooh.
So if I don't communicate expectations clearly, and they can't meet those, they can't execute it.
Because they can't execute that which they've not been told.
That's right. So my expectations that I've set, my clarity that I've set, that's also the lid now for holding people accountable. Because if it wasn't clear to me, I've got to give grace. Because it wasn't clear. I didn't tell you. So now it's not executed properly because I didn't communicate properly.
It comes back to us.
It really does. And again, if this is not your jam, this is not what you're good at, have somebody help you to communicate this. Come up with a communication plan. When I'm executing change, and I'm not sure if we are going to do a podcast or we have done a podcast on leading through change, but I have a whole series on that. And one of the steps that we talk about is in communication is the communication cascade. And what that looks like and what you're doing is when you're implementing a big change, especially, is making sure you're doing things you're communicating in the right order, right? So you're starting with your leader and whoever's above you, making sure they're with you. Then your direct staff team or the people that are your core volunteers, and then your leaders, and then all of your broader volunteers. and then your parents. And so, but at every step of the way, why do we do that? What we're doing with that cascade is what we get what I call head nodders, right? So we're gaining more people with us that when we communicate as a group,
yes,
they're not in agreement, and everybody that's hearing for this for the first time is looking over at you and go, well, Josh seems to be he's excited about this,
and Susan's excited about it.
So I guess I can be excited about it.
This is a very interesting point. To that point, that's why I was on a mission to gain 55 people, because I wanted a whole bunch of head nodders that understood. And that is change execution. Because again, we may probe and find out that we got a problem. I put together some steps, but in order to effectively communicate this, I've got to win hearts and minds of the masses.
Yeah.
And part of this is communication, but another part of it is this last one, check. So we're wanting to complete this, but you got to inspect what you expect. I like this. You have to revisit, review, and recalibrate. Talk to us about this.
Okay, so now just communicating the marching orders isn't enough. It's now we got to come back and we got to put our, Jim Weidman used to call it his, let's see, what was it? It was
MBWA.
MBW, his management by walking around.
That's right.
Degree, right? This is checking in and making sure that things are being done correctly. And the chances are, and one, if things are, celebrate that.
That's right.
And make a big deal of that. If not, now let's do a review. Let's remember, let's revisit what we communicated, what our expectations are, recalibrate, or it could be, hey, this isn't going as we thought. This isn't the right solution. We thought this was it. We've implemented it. And the earlier that you can catch that, the better off you're going to be. Okay, we're 3 weeks into this. We thought that this new program, and usually it's not a full big change. It's just, okay, this is where the incremental, we're having to, just a recalibration.
Okay. Can I jump in right here? So let's start from the very beginning. So we probed, we found a problem, we made a whole bunch of steps, and we are now executing, strategizing, and we have the steps from our strategy, and now we're completing, and we're literally making the change. Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, my hands just went up, and so now you're saying, now that we're 3 weeks out, we're going to do another probing session and go, hey, Connie and Billy and John, you guys told me that we kind of had a problem down here. Now that we've executed this and we're 3 weeks in, are we meeting that need? They're like, yeah, however, no, keep going. Okay, so we're going to do another couple strategy sessions to maybe fine tune our thing that we thought we were completed on. And by the way, Vance, out of the bag. Nothing's ever completed. That's right. That's
the whole point. That's why it's a spiral.
That's why it's the progress spiral. This is good stuff.
We just did this. We're starting back over. But drift is natural. Things are people naturally are going to not stay on point. There's going to be people that aren't going to be hitting the target. And it's our job to continue to help them stay in alignment. This is where we're reminding them, hey, remember that heading that we had? That's where we're heading.
Yes.
That's your anchor point. Keep your eye up there. That's where you're heading. Because it's real easy to get your coordinates off. Nope, we're in the wrong direction. Let's head back this way.
Well,
this is where we're going.
The interesting thing is that if you've ever flown on an airplane, the pilot, they don't set this thing on autopilot and just fly, right? True story, if you start in New York and you're headed towards Seattle, but you are off by 1 degree, you're going to end up in Los Angeles.
Right. That's why they have what's called, and you probably know this, when you fly from Los Angeles to, or where did you say? It doesn't matter. Anyway, from
New York to Seattle. New York to Seattle.
New York to Seattle. They do not set a coordinates from New York to Seattle. In fact, there's about 6 waypoints.
Yes.
They set it to a waypoint and then a new waypoint. So it's there's markers along the way. Exactly. Yeah. So that helps. We're checking in. These are the waypoints. Hey, we're just getting to this waypoint. Not all the way there. Now are we still on track? How far are we off? Because if you don't have those check-ins and those waypoints, you can get way off course.
Way off base. Well, this is good. This is really good stuff. Vance, as we close this out, I think we need to think about setting a rhythm, right? Schedule a time each quarter. By the way, I understand this last 3 weeks, I might be like, oh my word, we could be fixing everything in perpetuity. Okay, slow down. Pick one thing, ask a question about it, strategize, make some steps, and take it to completion. That's great. Schedule a time each quarter to move through this progress spiral, whether it's about people or processes or programs. At the end of the day, write down your strategy steps, those key insights in the moment. And I couldn't agree more with what you've said here. Involve your senior leaders, involve your volunteers. Don't be the Marlboro man all by yourself on some horse.
Yeah.
Don't be that person. Make sure that you're really, really, really making this a community endeavor. Vance, you're a good dude. Thank you so much for walking us through this kind of 3-week piece of this progress spiral.
This has been a blast.
Yeah, you're a good guy, and I want to say that there have been eye-opening points on this little journey, this 3 weeks, that I've had some pretty solid aha moments, and I hope that the listeners have had them as well. So big hats off to you, Vance. Thanks for leading us through this. And gang, we are grateful for you, and we want you to ask the hard questions, and then do the hard work of strategizing, and then do the hard work of completing it, only to evaluate it again. Well, here we are, January 2026. We're talking about how you can lead productively. One great way that you can do that is through the progress spiral. Gang, we're grateful for you, and we'll catch you on the next one.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Lead Ministry Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and visit leadvolunteers.com for more episodes and resources. Thanks for listening.